Hello, everyone. So it's the weekend, and we have a snowstorm coming our way. So if you happen to be in this area, stay safe, stay warm. I was actually hoping for a barbecue soon, but I'm guessing snow shoveling those 25 centimeters of snow will have to do. But like I said, it's the weekend, and let's get straight to our highlights. The first one is from At Your Best. Without a strategy for saying no, you default to yes, and your life vaporizes with other people's priorities being realized rather than yours. So, this is in the chapter where the author is walking us through different techniques about scheduling your time months in advance, weeks in advance, or even months in advance. And that will give you a strategy to say no, because if you can't say no, you'll default to saying yes. And um, yeah, once you say yes, there goes your weekend or whatever plans you were hoping to make, but now it's gone. And of course, the author is not implying that you should always be saying no. That's not what the author is doing over here. But the problem is that we say yes without thinking. There would be something that is more important to us, and we have given that up, because we are not thought in advance, and come up with a strategy to say no in that moment. I realize this is not a problem for everyone, right? But of course, if it's a problem for you, then this is again a very useful book to read. I just finished it recently. It's a useful book. Let's go on to next one. That's team topologies. If the organization has an expectation that everyone should see every message in the chat, or everyone needs to attend the massive stand-up meetings, or everyone needs to be present in meetings to approve decisions, then we have an organization design problem. Conway's law suggests that this kind of many-to-many communication will tend to produce monolithic, tangled, highly coupled interdependent systems that do not support fast flow. More communication is not necessarily a good thing. And this is a very important realization. In another book which I recently finished reading, it's come up in highlights many times. Remote Not Distant. Like the author takes an even stronger stance, saying collaboration is actually bad. And of course, the author doesn't mean that. There is a lot of nuance in that statement, but that's a much more forceful way of presenting it than this one. Where they say that more communication is not necessarily a good thing. So if you're trying to optimize for collaboration and communication, that's not the right thing that you're looking that you should be after. What you should be after is outcomes. What outcomes you're generating with those communication and collaboration, and can they be done in a better way, especially in today's reality where a lot of companies are remote. Communication has a lot of overhead, and even with that does not really solve the problem. So we have to invest in finding ways which do not depend on communication or collaboration. And of course, that's the subject of these books. So if you want to know more about it, the books are there, and uh, uh, these things have come up in highlights before. So it's all scattered, I'm afraid to say. Let me see if I can pull them together some other time. For now, we'll go to the next one, which is Pirates in the Navy. Most companies manage innovation using the same reward and incentive systems as the core business. The annual targets and review process for bonuses makes it difficult to celebrate failure. Innovation needs to have a dedicated and different incentive system. While this is fairly straightforward, I don't think so there's much I can say about this, but I would like to bring in, I'm reading this book Drive, and I've talked about another book Get It Done a lot of times on this videos, and both of them, bringing in incentives to solve a creative problem is the wrong thing. It backfires. Innovation, which is highly a creative thing, we're not just talking about the regular day-to-day jobs, which is also creative, by the way, and incentives affect that. But innovation, where you're going to take a creative chance, and there is a higher risk for failure, incentive models fail spectacularly. And yeah, this is another highlight that supports that. But we'll go on, and the next one is the molecule of more. Dopamine doesn't stop; it drives us ever onward into the abyss. That's the kind of the subject of the book. It's the molecule of more. It's right there in the title. Dopamine always wants more, 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 and more. There is no stopping it. Um, right from things like addictive drugs to our need for being right, or our need for being in control, dopamine doesn't stop. It just drives us ever onward into the abyss. So yeah, let's move. Braving the wilderness. I know it's hard and you must feel alone. You're kind of weird and outlier in a lot of ways. But here's the thing. There were more than 20 speakers at that big leadership conference and you were the highest rated speakers. You were the highest rated speaker. In your jeans and clogs, given that, how do you figure that anyone belongs there more than you? You will always belong anywhere you show up as yourself and talk about yourself and your work in a real way. I guess there's not much for me to say here as well. It kind of covers everything. But the context is that the author of this book, Brené Brown, she's talking about a time when she was presenting at this conference, and like this highlight says, she was in jeans and clogs, and everybody else were in dress suits and everything. Sorry, suits and like those business dresses. And of course, if you were in a position like that, you would feel out of place. You would feel like, okay, do I belong over here in a conference like this? I'm appearing in my jeans and clogs. But that's the point. You'll always belong anywhere you show up as yourself. Let's go. Next one is the earned life. At first glance, CEOs appear to be ultimate generalists, but peel away the necessary but generalized leadership skills of clear communication, persuasion, and decision making, and you'll find that every good CEO has a very specific skill or core value that they regard as their OTG. And OTG, in notes, is one trick genius. Like the book is repeating this abbreviation multiple times. So again, I think we came across this concept a couple of days before, where we talk about, or the author is talking about specialists. Being a specialist, value of being a specialist, and contrasting that with generalist. And I mentioned that like it's the message is not really different from range. The Yeah, on one hand, the author over here is saying that like he favors specialism, and range, it's all about being a generalist. But they're saying the same thing, and I think this highlight also tells me the same thing. The CEOs appear to be ultimate generalists, but peel away the necessary but generalized leadership skills of clear communication, all of these things, and they're important, right? We can't just ignore that. Yeah, there is a specific skill or core value that adds that the regard as the OTG. Everybody has that, right? That specialism is important, and range again is not saying that you should not have that specialist value. Range is showing the importance of being a generalist, having this general skills, broad skills of, for example, leadership skills, broad decision making skills, and everything. And of course, there is a lot more the range covers in terms of being a generalist, in terms of the areas around your topics border and so on. And I feel this author, the author in this book is also saying the same thing. Let's go on to this. Is just a tweet. I'm going to just skip this. Next one is from the talent war. Your questions should be designed to elicit information about certain behaviors so that you can measure the attributes identified in the relevant talent profile, like drive or humility. The book is about interview, or it's the book is about hiring generally, and the author is talking about in the interviews how would you decide that the question is a good fit. And really, you can ask a lot of things, and you can ask a lot of minute things that you believe will come up in the day-to-day job, or you can ask very broad questions that may seem very weird. But how do you decide that this is a question worth asking in the interview? And this is a heuristic over here. The question should be designed to elicit information about certain behaviors. Because you don't have a lot of time in the interview. The day-to-day work is varying, it is elaborate, it is highly complex. You can't begin to judge all of that in a half an hour interview, or an hour interview, or even 5 hours interview. Your day is typically 8 hours. You're working on typically 40 hours in a week, and there are a lot of varying challenges over there. How can you hope to figure out all of that in a 1 hour call? So what you should really focus on is finding out the behaviors, and that's what your questions should target. Moving on. Extreme ownership. Departments and groups within the team must break down silos, depend on each other, and understand who depends on them. If they forsake this principle and operate independently or work against each other, the results can be catastrophic to the overall team's performance. Again, it seems contrasting to what we just discussed about communication and collaboration, but again, it's not so. Each author in their own place is talking about an optimal level of defining dependencies. It's acknowledging dependencies and having those communication pathways and collaboration pathways where it makes sense, or having protocols where they can be they can be made very, very streamlined. So over here, yeah, we're talking about breaking down silos and depending on each other. But of course, the book otherwise also talks about how do you condense the information for each particular team, and what each team needs to know from about their role in mission, condensing that and clarifying that for each and every team. So again, we're talking about making the communication streamlined and more effective, not communicating everything and everybody being in the same meeting, or having that massive communication channels and all of that. Yeah, that's not what they're talking about here. Moving on, a mind for numbers. Your ability to solve complex problems may make you overthink simple problems, going for the convoluted answer and overlooking the simple, more obvious solution. Research has shown that smart people can have more of a tendency to lose themselves in the weeds of complexity. Um, okay, it's straightforward, but again, I would like to connect this with this whole discussion about specialism and generalism that we have been having. Uh, if you're focused on one particular aspect of a problem, or one particular aspect of the technology or the problem space, it's very easy to get tunnel visioned into that. And this is something I think we just discussed yesterday. So yeah, research like the highlight says, we have seen that smart people can have more of a tendency to lose themselves in the weeds of the complexity. Sometimes we call that bike shedding. It's very common. It happens, and that is why sometimes you have to take a step back, look at the borders of the problem, and see if there are other solutions, simpler solutions that can solve the problem, rather than going for a convoluted answer that's highly specialized. And again, like, that's where the value between generalism and specialism comes into play. So I think that's the end of the highlights today. I'll skip this, and have a good weekend. Once again, like I said, stay safe in the storm if you happen to be in this area, and generally stay safe and have a good weekend. Thank you.